So let's talk about Scanner Sombre.
Scanner Sombre.
So in the old days, sales figures were, hidden and tucked away. But now anybody in the world can just look up Scanner Sombre on Steam Spy and find out how many
see the extent to which we have failed.
Because it hasn't done very well, has it?
No, it's bombed. It's bombed in a big way.
How many units have we shipped now?
I don't know, 6,000 or something total?
6,000.
Yeah.
So
I didn't think that was possible. After it's not that I arrogantly believe we're the best people in the world or anything. It's that our last game sold over 2 million. So I kind of wrongly assumed that would just give us a minimum number of people looking at our game. Numbers like that would be impossible.
I thought there was just a minimum number of people floating around on Steam.
Yeah.
And if you did a sort of reasonably good job on a game, that you were going to get a reasonably big audience too. I mean, this is not news. The so-called indie apocalypse has been a thing for quite a while. But I've always just sort of thought to myself, well, not every game does very well. It's very difficult. But I didn't realise quite the extent of... and the other thing is that we were top 10 in Steam for a little while.
Yep, I know.
When we launched.
Absolutely. On launch day, we made it well into the top 10 selling games on Steam. In fact, you found out, didn't you, that our sales numbers, as dire as they are, put us in the top 25% of all Steam games at the time.
Yeah, something like that. Because we did over $50,000 in month one.
Yeah.
I think that puts you in, top 15%. I think.
Yeah.
Of all Steam games, which is a bit of a nuts thing, really.
We'd hoped for better, hadn't we? To be honest.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm still sort of trying to take this in and process what it means because.
Yeah, because it's Steam user reviews are very good, right? Its user review score is like 85%. People that play it really like it, and I love people have written saying that they really, really enjoyed playing this game. But there's something about the nature of the game itself, like in the sense that it's very weird looking and very short and kind of like a one-time only thing, that just made an awful lot of people just pass on it. It's not the best game we've ever made, and we knew it wasn't, and we knew it was going to be niche, but we didn't think it was going to be that niche, did we? As in, crazy, nobody is interested in this game niche. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that people will mock us and say about us, well, you guys are idiots. You guys, you had Prison Architect. You should have done Airport Architect. You should have done Parkitect. You should. But there's a genuine and legitimate reason why we didn't do that. And the genuine and legitimate reason was partly a bit of burnout, I think, having worked on a project for 5 or 6 years, and partly because if you work on a project on such a long time scale, you moving on to the new thing, which you think is going to be another big epic experience, is a huge commitment.
Yeah.
And
you have your expectations set, don't you? Like we would do a Prison Architect update, and then we'd do a YouTube video and get like 150,000 views, and millions of people would play our update. It sets your expectation, doesn't it, about what success looks like? Whereas before Prison Architect, we had a very different view of what constituted a successful game launch.
Well, I think it's not that. I think that we weren't looking at that. We were just looking, and we were fairly confident because Scanner was a fast project, right? It took 9 months to get it done, and I was just looking to make the money back on it.
Yeah.
That's going to be enough.
Manage that, are we?
Probably
so
not.
I think if we're going to talk about it, I think we should play it while we're talking, rather than talking for half an hour and then I have to rush a demo at the end.
Now, so. One of the questions that we got asked a lot about Scanner during its development and also during its launch is, will it have VR? And
yes,
I can tell by the shaky, wobbly Crystal A headcam footage that I'm watching at the moment that you've done it.
It's funny. It looks really stable and lovely in VR. It's one of those things. We found the same thing when we did DEF CON VR, didn't we? That it's one thing to record a video in VR, but then when you go back and watch it again, you're just like, oh my god, it's all over the place,
Yeah.
It's like the worst cameraman in the world. But obviously the Vive will pick up every head movement that I make. Now for me, my brain doesn't, your brain just does that thing, doesn't it, where somehow, even though your eyes are moving all the time constantly, your brain pieces it together into a solid model of the world.
Yeah.
So to me, everything looks amazingly stable and perfect and the scale of it all around me is just astonishing. You know, and the atmosphere of it, it's amazing. But on YouTube, or whoever's watching it by whatever means now, I imagine it just looks like the normal game, but with a really bad camera.
Yeah.
You know? So there you go. Great hope. It's a perennial problem demoing for VR. I mean, there is that method you can use, isn't there, where you kind of superimpose yourself on the VR world.
Yeah.
You know, like you get a video of yourself and you superimpose it. But I've never managed to figure out how they actually did it.
Well, someone got in touch, actually, to give him his credit if he's watching this video, because he did get in touch and say, let's do it. But I think the problem is that for us, I think it's probably going to be a few months' worth of work, you know, a lot of tech, it's a lot of effort. And as we've just sort of discussed, there's not a lot more we can commit to with Scanner. You know, we kind of have to put it in a little box and say, there you go, that's it, and we need to move on to something else. But so talk me through it, mate. I mean, it's very difficult to...
Yeah, well, check this out. I've just picked this up, actually.
Right.
I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
This is the map view now. Right?
Yeah.
So I can use my hands, right? You see my hands here?
No, I don't see your hands.
Maybe that's the system rendering that. So I'm sort of pulling this map view around me now.
Yeah. No, I don't see your hands. I see the map view. But...
There's us. See, it's very hard to get across the scale of what you're looking at.
Yeah.
You know? But this is it's like having a miniature train set of the entire game world around me.
Oh, wow,
you know?
wow.
And I can Iron Man grab it as well, and I can go take it right down in size, like this.
Yeah.
You know? Or I can properly do a wah.
Nice.
I can go huge. You know, but again, I know I keep saying this, but you can't tell. But now it's like I'm surrounded by the entire game world.
I'm trying
3D. It's like I'm stood in Tony Stark's basement. That's what it's basically like.
Yeah, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, because I can kind of, because I know that as you tilt up, it's going to appear to be above you. You know, which must, if you've got a Vive headset, if you've got a Vive headset, you've got to get Scanner. You know, so that you can you can go into the VR world. Look at that! That's a horned man.
Yeah. Yeah, it does look immensely cool. It's like a different view on the game world, you know.
I never saw the horned man in the map in the desktop version.
Really? There he is.
But not in the map.
I mean,
not in the map, right?
No, because in the previous map it wasn't really that easy to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? It just wasn't really revealed to you. Yeah, it's very different experience. And the thing is, like, you see the scanner, right?
Yeah.
Just holding the scanner in this way in front of you like a gun, you know, and pointing it around and aiming it at stuff. It's just kind of like brings a whole other level of satisfaction to using it, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of people that played the game and really liked it loved the fact that they were just like filling in the area with a paint gun.
Yeah.
You know, but this really is literally like a paint gun, you know? That's what burst mode looks like.
That's brilliant. Yeah, look at that.
You could do this really crazy stuff with it, you know? Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, I think probably it's extremely... If we were hard-nosed businessmen, which we clearly are not, we would probably never have done this, would we?
If we were hard-nosed businessmen...
After Scanner's launch, you know.
If we were hard-nosed businessmen, we wouldn't be working in the games industry. That's the other reason why it's a fallacy to say you should make a follow-up game to that, you should stay there. If that's genuinely what drives you to make you that rich, just go and work in a city, you know, go and be a management consultant. There are plenty of other routes to huge wealth that are a lot more reliable than what we do.
You're saying it's okay that we made a huge loss on Scanner Sombre?
Well, we didn't make a huge loss. The game was, it took us 9 months, right? So you know,
it's not that bad, is it?
No, and a lot of the stuff that the company does is still supporting Prison Architect, you know, with updates and things. And so this was a relatively small project. We took a punt. It didn't work out for us, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, in the olden days, it would have been, right? We would have been out again on our ear, wouldn't have had any money.
Oh, that's it. I mean, this has happened to us before. It reminds me a lot of Multi-Winnia, you know?
Yeah.
It reminds me of the days where we had higher expectations for Multi-Winnia. I think we were caught a lot more by surprise with Multi-Winnia, because each game we'd made previously had done better than the last one.
Yeah.
And then Multi-Winnia just bombed hard, you know. And Scanner is kind of like that, you know, sort of similar. But the difference now is that we've got Prison Architect. Prison Architect continues to do amazingly well, even years after its launch.
Yeah.
You know?
And
so it just doesn't affect it. And I suppose you could say that the great thing about that is it enables us to try really weird stuff like this.
Do you know, I think
and not be too terrified.
What the true stupidity would be if we'd stopped working on PA, you know? But given that we're committed to continuing to update it, we always sort of said that we're going to keep it going every now and again, but we've pretty much just announced that we're going to, update it a couple of times a year at least, to just keep it focused. That would be the height of folly, I think, to just leave it now, But continuing to keep that going, that's like the bread and butter, and enables us to take risks and do more interesting work that gamers are ready for or are not ready for, This is not that this is bad, mate. It's just it's too far in the future. Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future, and he goes, "I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet."
Yeah, I guess you guys ain't quite ready for that yet.
That's what Scanner is.
Your kid's gonna love it.
That's what Scanner is. Yeah, exactly. Your kid's gonna love this.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is, mate. Maybe that's what it is after all.
So how do we move then? Obviously, you've got a Vive, so you're walking around.
Well, I've been moving for like the last 20 minutes. Yeah, so your left controller, I know you can't see it, but you can see the thing coming out of it.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't really see that. Yeah, no, I can see the controller.
I can see the left controller, but I think it's system rendered,
No, I can see it, mate. It's just that it has to be up quite high against the backdrop of the...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's your movement arc. So you just point that where you want to go and click. And that's how you move around, We messed around with various things, but... If you slide and if you glide forward, it's very vomit-inducing in VR. So teleportation seems to be becoming kind of the de facto method of moving around in first-person VR games.
Yeah.
I mean, I play a lot of VR games, and I've seen quite a lot of different attempts at movement models. The only ones that work for me are the ones where you teleport like this in small steps.
Yeah.
And then your right hand, you have the controller, and the individual buttons do things like bring up the map and let you mess with it, And then, the burst scan is on that one, so that's what the burst scan looks like.
I know, it looks brilliant, doesn't it?
It's a very, very different experience in VR, It's the scale of everything is very different indeed. Just it has a very different feel to it when you're walking around. Not least of which because it's the hottest day of the year.
Oh, it's true. Yeah,
Since like 1970, and I've got a Vive headset on. That's one of those birthing pains I think the VR industry hasn't really resolved yet. What to do about the fact that I've got this baking red hot VR headset strapped to my face.
I've scratched mine. Have you? Yeah, because I wear glasses, as do you. And on one occasion, when I was putting it on over my glasses, contacted the glass and the Vive and my glasses, and scratched the Vive to the point now that I've got like this blurry spot in my vision. This is why VR is not doing massively well just yet.
Yeah. Well, I can't believe you wear your glasses.
I have to
wear my glasses.
I have to. I can't see it otherwise. My eyes are different to yours. I'm disabled. Yeah. I can sue you now for that comment, mocking my disability. But this is why like the technology is just a bit too expensive. But I mean, it's coming. It is wonderful. It is wonderful. I don't think people. Yeah. Think people with Vives and Oculus and Rifts obviously are going to really enjoy Scanner, but I don't think people are going to go out and buy VR kits just to experience it.
Just for this game, yeah. Yeah.
So here's a question for you then, mate. If you had to do anything differently with Scanner, what would you...
Oh dear, yeah. What would we do differentently?
Or would you do anything differently? Or would you just go, no, I'm happy with the output and it's,
There's not a lot I would radically change because I think that it's important to think of it in terms of like it is what it is,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I wish we'd made it a system simulation driven colony building game.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I think I'm very happy with how it turned out visually and in terms of atmosphere and the audio and the exploration of it and the scanner mechanic itself and all that stuff. I love all that stuff. I think that's pure Introversion. And I think it really looks like an Introversion game as well,
Yeah.
In how sort of stark and weird it looks. But I think that we have to accept that we just royally dropped the ball on the narrative side. I think that we tried to craft a narrative ourselves that would be sufficient to bring players through the game and make them understand what was happening and give it some sort of emotional meaning, And I think we just have to accept that we failed on that front.
Yeah, but I think you can pick it apart more than that, right? I don't think we weren't sat there thinking, "Oh, we need a story. We'll just bodge on in." I think what actually happened was you had the Scanner concept idea, and Dean did a really good job of putting the levels together, and you did as well. And then we had the problem of ending it. How does this game finish? And the ending that you came up with when we were running it through the playtests just didn't resonate with anybody, and the hypothesis was that it didn't resonate because there had been no story up to that point. You know, there was no context for anybody. People just didn't understand why they were in the cave or who they were or what was happening. So the ending that suddenly dropped this narrative requirement down, that's what caused us to suddenly need some narrative in there. But I think that, certainly from my perspective, I didn't want Scanner to take another year, and I think that's what it would have taken. You know?
Yeah. Well, I think you're possibly right on that. I think you're right that we were caught off guard by that. I think we didn't. In the original plans, there was no narrative whatsoever in this game. It was narrative free. You know, it was just an exploring experience. You know, but there wasn't meant to be a story or anything. And I think that didn't work. And so we kind of responded by trying to add a story that would be sufficient. You know, but I think that you can't make stories that way. You know, I think the story should have come in earlier, and we should have got somebody in that's a talented story writer to actually do some story writing for us, because we have some skills between us, you and I, but I don't think story writing is one of them.
Well, you know? Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you. And also, the attempt to retrofit the story was what was so hard.
Because we had all the levels already, but we just now we're trying to fit a story to it. I think that but the thing is, though, it's not like we were taken by surprise by that. I mean, before launch, we were theorizing, like, what's our Metacritic going to look like? You know, what's our reviews going to look like? We knew that the story was going to let the game down a bit in the reviews, right? We were never under the illusion that we'd written the best story in the world. But I think that what did catch us by surprise was just how much people cared about the fact there was no story, you know, or not a good enough story, or a story that they didn't like. I thought because I've played loads of games that don't have a story and not given a shit, and I mistakenly thought that most players wouldn't give a shit there wasn't much of a story in Scanner, you know.
Well, maybe they don't give a shit, you know, because the people that play it like it, you know. And I don't think that if the story had been, like, I don't know, written by Charles Dickens or something, or you know, Philip Dick or something, you know, the most amazing story. Yeah. I'm not sure that suddenly the floodgates would have opened. We would have had loads of people coming in.
No, I agree with that entirely. Yeah, I agree completely. I think it's a niche game anyway. Even with a good story, you know, it would have reviewed better, and it would have lost some of its big criticisms, you know. Because I think that they are fair criticisms.
Yeah, absolutely.
You always look at it, and it's always hard. Immediately after launching a game is always a very difficult time, you know, because it's very stressful building up to that point, and then you get judged, you know, and it's hard to be judged and to be found lacking.
yeah.
You know, after such a massive hit, we've gotten used to succeeding endlessly with Prison Architect. You know, every update we did and stuff. You know, but I think you're right. If we'd gone all the way back with a time machine and added a story right at the very beginning and got a talented writer in, that would have permeated the whole game to the extent to which all the levels would have looked completely different and been ordered differently, and different stuff would have been happening on every level. And in fact, the whole game would be radically different. So it's not like we could have just, you know, changed one little thing and it would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a core block underpinning the whole thing. But, you know, I'm not certain, sat here, that had we had delivered that and done it in a really powerful and well-designed way, I'm not convinced that Scanner's fortunes would be much different. You know, I think this is just about audiences, you know, and niche audiences, and I mean, you can't even say that we didn't get the word out. You know, people were aware of it. You know, we got it was a stunning you know, PR campaign delivered by me that you know, ensured that everybody in the world was...
We made a huge number of people aware that they didn't want to buy the game.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's all I can do. That's all I can do.
Yeah, exactly. You know? It's not on you, is it? No, it's never on you.
It's not on me, mate. It's not on me. It is on me sometimes. It is on me sometimes. Anyway. So there we go. That's our honest appraisal of Scanner Sombre. We're going to move on from Scanner Sombre now. Don't expect any more updates. You're not going to get any. The VR version is very cool, so if you've got Scanner, it's free. Didn't mention that, but for anyone that's got Scanner, you can just add in the VR version, download and play it. We will be back at some point with a PA update and some new crazy niche project.
Well, yes, that's it, yeah. That's what do you think we're doing next Monday, mate? We're
I don't know, mate. What are we doing on Monday?
Well, neither do we. That's what's exciting, isn't it?
Oh, I see what you mean.
I'm going to go into Unity, mate, and I'm going to click on File, New Project.
Boom.
Right? And I'll see you in a couple of years. Probably a bit less than that.